Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Leadership Purpose with Dr. Robin podcast. I'm so glad you're here and you take time to listen into the podcast or now watch the podcast on YouTube. Really appreciate you. And because you've been faithful listeners, we have been ranked in the top podcasts of all podcasts globally, according to Listen Notes. So thank you for doing that. And if that weren't enough, you helped us get to 3 years. At this time of our recording, we're celebrating 3 years of the podcast. And so we're entering into a new season, season 4. We will be focusing on finding your joy in work and meaning in work and purpose and really honing in on that. So we bring in experts like the one we have today to talk about their own lives, purpose and meaning, or we'll have other guests who, if their work is directly related to helping you have more joy at work and more purpose at work, we'll bring them on to help you too. So this is the place where we gather together all to become people who are moving more and more in a life full of meaning and purpose. All right, so now today I'm talking with Chrissy Bernal. Chrissy Bernal. And let me tell you a little bit about Chrissy. After suddenly ending up in the global spotlight for her unique identical twins, Chrissy was savvy enough to know she needed to create and grow her twins' brands quickly. So after receiving really bad advice that cost her time and thousands of dollars, she decided to dive into learning what she really needed to do to help her twins gain momentum and in their brand and to be taken seriously. Now, fast forward, and she'll fill us in later, but fast forward, now she's the founder of Be a Better Brand. And by using proven marketing and communication frameworks and strategic PR strategies, she and her team help authors, podcasters, entrepreneurs pull together branding, messaging, and publicity. So they clearly communicate their stories, increase their influence, and reduce the chaos experienced in the journey of being known. Welcome, Chrissy Bernal.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here, and especially for the anniversary. That's awesome.
Yes, I'm so glad you're here to celebrate the podcast birthday.
Yeah. Should have worn a hat, the birthday hat.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. We could have both had on our happy birthday hats. All right. So now you heard me read your bio, some of it, not all of it, because I mean, you have a wealth of experience and knowledge. So why don't you tell us in your own words, first about you and then the work you do?
Sure. Well, as you mentioned earlier, I have a really rare set of identical twins, and they actually have 2 Guinness Book records. And Guinness actually approached us about them, and that's because of all the publicity we had already amassed. So, but yeah, I had no idea that my life was going to end up shaping or being shaped the way it has. And, I started college thinking, yes, I wanted to go into communications of some sort. I had always been a writer, and I knew that I wanted to do something on the creative side of things. And I always knew I did not want to go corporate. I knew that 100%. So if that's, if corporate's your thing, fine. But for me, I knew corporate was not a setting for me. And so I went to college and started in, I started as a music major, believe it or not.
Oh, really?
Yes. And fun fact, and this will kind of show how old I am, I tried out for Star Search when I was younger.
Well, I remember Star Search.
That's way before American Idol. But
Yeah.
so anyway, I was going in the music program and I loved it, but then I thought, I don't want to be a music teacher. I'm not going to be famous. I don't think this is the right major for me. So I thought I got to do something creative, and I always liked journalism. Ended up actually getting a journalism scholarship. So I don't know why I didn't choose it to begin with. Young and stupid, I guess. But
Sometimes you just have to learn as you go.
Yeah, and you know what? I made some friends, in that program that I'm still very tight with today, and that's 20 something. We won't say exactly how many, but 20 something years later. So I switched to mass communication / journalism, and that encompassed some PR, which was nice because um, that just got my brain going, the juices going. I knew that personal branding was going to be a thing, and I got my degree right when Google was an infant. So, nobody really used Google that much at that time. Because I remember after one of my twins got one of her medical diagnoses, I had to quote unquote Google it on Ask Mr. Jeeves. So, because Google wasn't around, but so uh I knew, that personal branding was going to be a thing. And so when the girls were born, even though I didn't know they were rare or unique or anything like that, obviously I knew they were different looking, even though they were identical technically, which that always throws people off. Identical really means monozygotic, so one egg. So identical twins don't actually have to look identical.
Oh,
It just means they came from one egg.
oh,
And so for like Sienna, once the egg split, genetic mutations happened. That's why they're so different. But I didn't realize they were so rare. And, but like I said, I knew that personal branding was going to be a thing. So I went ahead and got all of our domain names. And, this was, I think 17 years ago, long time ago. And so I knew, first name, last name.com, had to get those. So I got them for our entire family, even though they, the kids were young, because I do have a son as well who's older. And then when the girls were 10, we got contacted by a local reporter saying he wanted to do a report on the girls. And I said, okay, whatever, it's fine. He came, took some nice pictures. I got some nice pictures out of it. Sienna, the smaller one, landed on the cover. And it turns out it was their first full color cover of the entire magazine's history. So it was beautiful. And just to fill the listeners in, what makes the girls so rare is Sienna has what's called primordial dwarfism. So it's a really rare form of dwarfism where fewer than 200 people in the world have it. And she is proportionate, even though she's smaller. So she looks like maybe 8-year-old, even though she's 25 now. She is on the taller side of primordial dwarfism. So I don't know why. Doctors are still trying to figure out the different I guess, diagnoses of, the sub, I don't know, there's different kinds. I guess there are 5 different kinds of primordial dwarfism that we know of so far. So they're trying to study her DNA to figure out what subsect, I guess, of primordial dwarfism, but there are fewer than 200 in the world. And then Sienna also has what's called Dandy Walker. So she's missing part of her brain from that. And then she has what's called the genesis of the corpus callosum. So she's missing the thing that separates the 2 hemispheres of her brain. And then she's also hard of hearing and she had one heart hole repaired when she was 9 months old, and then she has another one that's really little. But so she has lots of things going on.
yeah, yeah.
And so the reporter did his beautiful work. It was several page spread. Then I guess it went out on the AP Wire, and we got a call from 2020. And then Inside Edition and Anderson Cooper and some German television, French television, Australia, England many times. So it just went like wildfire, like crazy. I guess that was before viral was really a thing. And so it would have been, that time version of going viral. And so I hired some people. We got really bad advice on just various things. I published a book at the same time, and my publisher told me not to do my own marketing and PR because it would look vain. So I thought that meant they were going to do it. No. So my book flopped because there was no marketing and PR happening, which, that was super frustrating because my whole purpose of putting the book out was to help. The book was to teach children that you're perfect just the way you are, and that it's a superpower to have something that's different about you.
Oh,
And, so it was really disappointing for me that it wasn't getting in the hands of kids.
yeah.
So, I thought, I don't want anybody else to ever feel like this. And so I went ahead and, pulled on my formal education, and then just dove into everything I could read, everything I could find, and discovered how to properly market and, do publicity for a book. And then I took over the publicity for the girls as well. And, now Sierra is a country artist who lives in Nashville. So that went well, to have a brand already established for her. And then Sienna has her own jewelry line. I'm actually wearing one of her pieces here.
Aw.
And she's been on television and whatnot for her own stuff as well, not just for being a rare twin. So, I've seen how well it can actually work. And like I mentioned earlier, Guinness called us because they saw them on everywhere. We didn't have to do anything crazy. We didn't have to pay. So it's been a blessing, but my life just organically moved into my purpose, and all it really took was me paying attention.
Mm.
Where am I being led? Where am I being led away from? What keeps coming in my lap? Because I did at one point try to get out of the literacy niche, but it kept coming back to me, kept
Mhm.
coming back. And so, one of the things that I remember, I worked with a coach many years ago, and, one of the things they said are, what are the questions people continually ask you?
Mhm.
And I was like, well, dadgummit, it's always about books. So I thought, I guess that's my thing. So here we are.
That's wonderful. I have 1,000 questions that I'm trying to rein in my
Okay,
brain,
go for
trying
them.
to funnel them into a stream of thought that, so many areas that got my attention. But let's go back to the twins. So what made them record breaking according to Guinness?
Okay, great question. It's a mouthful. They have two Guinness Book records. So one is for the biggest height differential among living identical twins. So because Sienna is 4'4", which, like I mentioned, is pretty tall, and Sierra is 5'7". So yes, I named them Sierra and Sienna. It has come back to haunt us many times that they were so close. But in my defense, I didn't know I was having twins until about 3 weeks before they were born.
Uh,
So I didn't have much time to come up with another name.
but they're beautiful names. They're beautiful names.
Thank you. And, fun fact, Kurt Warner, the football player, he has twins who are a little bit younger. They are also named Sierra and Sienna.
Interesting.
So he stole my idea. I'm just saying.
You're a trendsetter in so many ways. Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Wow. So the height difference grabbed the attention of these
Yes.
news organizations when the AP put it out. That's the thing that struck people, you think, the
Yes.
most that started.
Yeah. And then when they dove into it, because primordial dwarfism is so rare, the other record they have is rarest discordant twinning. It's the first documented case of identical twins where one has primordial dwarfism, the other one does not.
Uh, yeah. Yeah, I can see how that would get their attention. But I love that you started right away and you got them out, you got your own URL for them, and now they're each individually doing their own thing. It sounds like that they have their own, following their own passions. That's
Yep.
wonderful. That's
Yeah.
wonderful. All right, so now we're gleaning from your life because it seems like you kind of stumbled across or fell into or guided into a sense of purpose in your work in a way. Would you say that's true?
Yes. And I feel like it can change too. And I've always been led to help. I've always wanted to help people. But honestly, I don't know if I would have had the same path had I not experienced all the things I've already experienced. so I have a heart, I don't normally talk about this, but I am a domestic abuse thriver, I guess you would say. I did my first marriage was an abusive marriage, and so I did get out of that. And so I've always had a heart for helping women discover their worth and embrace their worth, because I lost mine. And I know, looking back, I see where I chose things differently because I didn't feel like I was worth it. And so it took me a long time to get that back. And so I'm really passionate about helping other women do that. And recently I've discovered, I knew there was something else inside me that was burning to help, but I wasn't quite sure what. And then as we were sitting at a marketplace full of mostly special needs entrepreneurs, I thought, okay, I've been given these skills and a child with special needs and a heart for helping. I've been called to actually help special needs businesses as well. So one of my whys is to make enough money so that I can help fund special needs businesses and help them actually make legitimate income. Because, oh my goodness, special needs people have so many good ideas. They are so talented. And once you just find that thing for them, oh my goodness, they could live quite viable lives, with like watching my daughter, now that she has her jewelry company, just seeing how much she has grown emotionally since starting her own business. And she dreams big now. She'll say, well, maybe next year I'll take us to Walt Disney World with all the money I make, things like that. So it's taught her that, you know what, hey, it's possible.
Yes. Yeah. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And it sounds like it was there even for you early on because you talked about the book um, as a way of helping people with special needs. So
Right.
is the book still available? Can people get it?
My publisher went out of business. I think there are a few resellers who sell it on Amazon. I mean, I sell it through my website as well, but I mostly use it I go to the inner city schools and I will give a speech, talk about it, and then I usually hand them out to all the kids, and I bring Sienna with us so that way they can see her. But yes, I've always had a heart for special needs people. This is pretty cool. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. I actually went to school in elementary with a student who had primordial dwarfism.
Really?
Yes. Isn't that, I mean,
Wow, the
I can't
chances.
even figure out the statistics there.
Right. What are the chances?
Yep. And, sadly, he passed away when he was 25, but from his death, they did discover things to look for so that they could save other lives of the people with primordial dwarfism. Um, and I also led our church's special needs service.
Oh,
So I feel like I was always being prepared for my life. I just didn't know it at the time.
yeah, and that's a nugget for anybody listening. You never know how the dots are being connected in your life,
They
right?
are
So,
always, always being connected. And I feel like every single thing that happens in our lives is happening for us, even the bad, crappy stuff that we would wish that we don't have to go through. Because, having a child with special needs, is it easy? Absolutely not. And, has it drained me some days where I just want to go sit in the corner and cry? 100%. Yes, it has many times. But I feel like it has shaped how I communicate with people. It has shaped, obviously, my career, but it has really given me a larger sense of being. And it's given me a why that's bigger than something that I could try and come up with myself.
yes. Yeah, I love that. And I love I can imagine that it is really challenging. I don't have children, but just having children that don't have those degree of special needs, it's a challenge. And for you, and then to have two at the same time, two children at the same time, that's a challenge. And then to have the additional, but you had the love And even with the, you talked about coming out of what you've learned personally after being in that abusive relationship, and you developed yourself enough to now know how to help your twins, even in the midst of all of that. So that's huge, major progress. And listening to you, it sounds like the pieces have been coming together. I see it all coming together, even from your early interest in music and journalism and communication and helping. It all fits
Mhm.
together in the midst of it. So it's a real accomplishment.
Yeah, it's been a real big blessing. And let's see, you said something a second ago and it made me think of something. It was regarding, oh, I'm sure it'll come back to me, but
Having children at all was a challenge.
well, that for sure. But yeah, I'm sure it'll come to me. I don't remember right now, but so.
Okay. All right. So it sounds like it's important to have purpose in your work. Am I right in making that assessment?
Yes, and that reminds me of what I was going to say a second ago. Another thing, when it comes to your purpose and finding out like what your path is supposed to be and that sort of thing, just paying attention and being intentional are things that I have really found to be helpful. And I have discovered that my clients even help with that. I have learned so much from my clients that they even help define kind of my purpose, and they even help equip me. One of my I was just talking about this earlier to someone. One of my clients, she is a Kundalini yoga instructor, and there's a particular move called Fists of Anger, and I have taught that move to Sienna to help deal with when she's feeling frustrated or feeling like she can't communicate or something like that. She'll go do Fists of Anger for a few minutes and then she'll be fine. So, if you're paying attention to everything that is going on in your life, you will discover why things are happening and what you're supposed to do with them.
Yes, yes, I agree with that wholeheartedly. Now, we kind of talked about how the dots were connected in your life, but is there a part of little Chrissy when you were a little girl that you see now, looking back like, oh, that she was there and now she's showing up in this way? Some similarities or connections?
Um, well, I've always, like I said, I've always written. I mean, even as a young kid, I've always written. I've always been really inquisitive. I've always asked a lot of questions, probably annoyingly so. And I'm always asking the why. And I feel like, that little girl, because I remember I got in trouble in school a lot for constantly pressing the teacher, but why, but why, but why? And now looking at, dealing with, having a child with special needs, when she was, there were times when she would literally bang her head on the ground because she was frustrated. So I had to be inquisitive enough to dig and discover, what is that? Why is she doing it? What is she trying to express that she's having trouble, figuring out? What tools do I need to give her? How do I need to help her? So I think my natural, inquisitive personality has stayed pretty consistent. But yeah, I can remember from a young age always asking why.
That's interesting. I was that kid too.
That's why we like each other.
Yes. And I'm still always asking why. Why? What does it mean? Why? Why? What does it mean? So yeah. Okay, so now the podcast, as you know, is called Leadership Purpose. And so it's for high achieving women. And I describe high achieving women because I know it's a general term and people mean different things when they say high achieving women. So I'll tell you what I mean by it. Women who are responsible, ambitious, goal oriented, um, doing lots of things because they like doing lots of things. They're good at a couple of them. And because of all that, people in their home life, they're the go-to person for questions about whatever the thing is. Could be anything, not even related to what they do, but people kind of come to them. Same thing at work in their business or their careers, people come to them. And so they're often supporting other people, right? So then I thought, well, who supports them while they're supporting everybody else? So, oh, we'll support them on the podcast.
I love it.
And if they are looking for that sense of, because when you're supporting other people all the time, sometimes you lose yourself, a sense of your own self and what you want for your own life. So I thought they're probably looking for meaning and purpose in their work. We can have the conversations here, and especially in this now in season 4 of the podcast, to really talk about those issues of meaning and purpose for the woman I just described. All right. So now my question to you is, based on your experience, either from your own experience, just kind of living, or from your professional experience, either way, and in any area of life or work, what advice would you give to the high achieving woman that I just described?
That is a great question, and it's so true, because I feel like we give so much of ourselves a lot of times that we forget, especially once you have kids, a lot of times you forget what you like, what's your hobby. And, I've even gotten to that spot myself. My daughter just asked me the other day, what's your hobby? And I've had to sit there and go, do I have a hobby? But, I read a lot, so I guess I don't think of it as a hobby.
Yeah.
But I am definitely one of those people who can't just sit still. So, I think my advice would be to take care of yourself as well. I started getting massages on a regular basis because I just noticed that I was putting myself on the back burner, my health and my mental wellness. And so a couple of years ago, I thought, I can't do this anymore. Something has to change. And before your situation changes, you have to change. So I started, meditating. And meditation doesn't have to be some woo thing where you get, smoke and candles. You could just be sitting there staring at the wall if you want. It's just quiet.
Yeah.
And I started with, I actually did a 40-day meditation challenge. So it was a group of us, and through one of my amazing friends, and she put us all together in a WhatsApp group. And so literally we check in every day. And if you missed a day, you voluntarily left the group, and it was just, honor system, but it was keeping everyone accountable. And we meditated for 10 minutes a day. That's it. That's all it took. And that 40 days, which ended up, I went 88 in a row, and I only skipped a couple and went right back to it. But those 10 minutes were so powerful, just to be quiet. And, I was taught something different about meditation growing up than what it actually is. And, meditation isn't removing God from your thoughts. It's actually removing yourself so that you can actually hear what's supposed to be coming into you. I really have enjoyed meditation. And then, like I said, the massages, the tension, and I know most women, our necks and shoulders are just ravaged with, tension. So, for me, it's super important, and it's non-negotiable for me. It doesn't have to be a super expensive or fancy one or anything, but I need that massage. And, eating better and eating well. I'm like right now, something in the last 6 months has caused my allergies to really act up a lot. So I've been very proactive. Currently this week, I'm eating chicken, asparagus, and a plain potato because I'm trying to reset my system, see if I can figure it out, so it's taking care of yourself too. That's my advice, because I know from my own example, like when you're not taking care of yourself, you are not doing anybody any good.
Yes. Yes, absolutely right. I'm sure that's helping a lot of people right now. Chrissy, you've been so generous with your time and your thoughts and your experience. Before we wrap it up and let people know where they can get in touch with you, is there anything I haven't asked you that, that sparks, just comes to the top of your mind, or one more thing you want to say?
Well, it's funny that you and I met, because you and I have very similar kind of belief statements. Like, my belief statement is I believe women should embrace their worth and confidently pursue the success they desire.
Mm,
So it's, very similar to what you were talking about with these high achieving women, because I think a lot of times people equate that to money.
yes.
And sure, if that's your goal, but it could be the woman who's volunteering everywhere and just making so many things happen. Like, they're just pulling off the best PTA, or PTO fundraisers and things like that, so whatever success looks like to her. So I think that's really interesting that we have the same kind of goal in mind for who we want to help.
Yes, that's wonderful. We have to thank our mutual friend, Johanna,
Yeah.
connecting us. Yes, I'm sure there's so many people listening right now and resonating with your words. And they might want to hear more about you and what you're doing and stay in touch with you. And where can they do that?
Well, my personal website is chrissybernal.com. And you can obviously Google my name and a bunch of stuff will pop up because, that's what publicity does. So, so yeah, but I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn, all those, I'm on pretty much all the places. I don't do TikTok, but I think I have a profile, but I don't do anything with it. But
Okay.
everywhere else I
Okay,
am.
that's wonderful. Wonderful. We'll be sure to put those in the show notes
Well, thank
and
you.
in the description so people can get to you and hear more about you. And I really want to thank you for sharing your heart and your time and your energy and presence
Thank you
here
for
today.
having
Really
me.
appreciate you. Yeah,
Yeah, I
wonderful
appreciate it.
conversation. I enjoyed it. We could talk all day.
I know. This flew by. I couldn't believe it.
Okay, everyone. And I'm so glad you're here. And I invite you to, if you're on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. At the time of this recording, we're just growing the YouTube channel. And if you are wherever you're listening to audio podcasts, I ask you to rate and review. That will help us a lot. And if you are interested in how can I find more joy in my work, go on over to the website, the podcast website, and I have a resource there for you. The website is Leadership Purpose Podcast, leadershippurposepodcast.com, and you'll get your free resource there. And until next time, this is Dr. Robin.